Michael closing in on the Florida Panhandle.
Or one of the strongest storms ever to make landfall.
It could be the strongest storm ever to hit that area.
And take a look at Panama City Beach. They're seeing the effects of the storm already.
Hurricane Michael is now a major Category 4 storm. Around 375,000 people across Florida were told to evacuate.
Gearing up to be the strongest in the Florida Panhandle's history.
Panama City Beach, where I am, is the most populated area, feeling the full force of the storm. Some 12,000 people live in Panama City Beach.
I'm Tammy Wilson. I'm the director of the food pantry here at Trinity Lutheran Church.
Sally Garcia. I'm retired.
I'm Robert L. Clark. I'm retired probation officer of the state of Florida and retired United States Air Force Reserve.
I'm Patricia Bird.
I'm Pastor Wayne Watts. I'm the associate pastor here at Trinity.
I'm Ralph Hammond, Mayor of the City of Springfield.
My name is Margot Anderson, and I am the mayor of the city of Lynnhaven, Florida.
I'm Katrina Seacrest Adams, third grade Parker. Arlita Sparks, music.
My name is Jennifer Jones, and I'm the executive director of Bay Arts Alliance. I'd sat through a lot of storms and lost power and things like that, but this was a little different. It was unusual.
It was hard. I was more worried about loss of life. Because all the trees, I mean, it was just...
Pure hell on earth. The calm before the storm was a major thing.
The darkness and the noise and the level.
Then Wednesday was just a nice calm day, and then all of a sudden it just went to pieces.
Sheila Carr. I live in Chipley, Florida. I've lived here for 47 years. About the hurricane, the devastation that it's caused on the whole community, my whole family lives on one property. My son and his wife and child lost their home. My mother lost part of her home. We lost our well. I lost a truck, a camper, a storage shed, a garage, and I forfeited my home for my children, and I now live in a camper. My property still looks 75% of the way it did the day of the hurricane. We don't have the financial means to clean it. We're dealing with rodents and snakes that we didn't have a problem with over a year ago. We can't go out at night because the snakes are so bad. So the property value has dropped due to that. Our home values has dropped due to that. And there's just no relief in sight for us. And don't know if any of the structures that's left will ever make it through another hurricane.
Lynnhaven is the second largest city in Bay County. Panama City is the largest. Our population is around 20,000 people before the storm. Panama City had about 35,000. I would say that Lynnhaven is the community where most people really love to live in Bay County. It's not a tourist destination. It's sort of a live, work, eat, play, golf cart community, coffee shops. We have 4 beautiful parks within our city limits that people can bicycle ride to. We're known for festivals, concerts in the park. We have a beautiful country club that's located in the city limits of Lynnhaven. But most importantly, what most people don't think of when they think about us is that Lynnhaven is completely surrounded by water by North Bay. And anywhere that you're sitting, including right here, we're 4 blocks from the bay right now. So.
Well, I'm an unusual mayor. I work 50, 60 hours a week. We've got what we call a strong mayor government. We have a city clerk, but we don't have a city manager. I've always had the opinion, if you're going to be responsible for something, you need to be here doing it. So that hadn't changed much. Put in a little bit more time. I'm an active mayor, and I apologize the way I look. I've been on an excavator most of the morning. I go out and tear buildings down to help the citizens. It runs about $15,000 for a demo. We started a plan 3 years ago at no cost to the city except for a little bit of diesel fuel. I'll go in and tear the buildings down, and then the only thing the residents have to do is pay for the dumpster fee. Bay County has waived all tipping fees on this program, so we're taking an average load of probably $700 to $800 down to about $150. So it's been a good program. I've done 28 of them now. I just finished 2 of them next door.
John Wilson.
How old are you, John?
9.
How did the hurricane change your life?
A lot.
What about your friends? You have any friends that were affected by the hurricane?
My dad's brother, his wife, her house got demolished. Well, she lived in Callaway. It was so scary. A big tree fell right in the middle.
Any of your friends move away? How many?
5, maybe.
They're too worried about what are we going to eat tonight for dinner? What, how am I going to get through the day with no roof? How am I going to get to school with no vehicle? What's mommy and daddy, what kind of mood are they going to be in because they're under way too much stress, The kids in these areas, not only have they been affected and changed, but they're different. They'll never be the same again, ever. I mean, they were traumatized.
We're still affected by it. There's so many in this community that are still affected, income-wise, housing-wise, quality of life-wise, by the hurricane. And I just don't feel like that we had enough help.
While we're waiting on something to happen, we go out and try to help as many people as we can.
When we have a Category 5 hurricane wipe out an area as big as this did, there has to be some kind of state group that's in charge of the whole picture instead of 15 or 20 different organizations trying to piecemeal things together.
One thing that happened after the hurricane was there was a lot of price gouging. Back the previous year, I got a quote on getting the tree cut down. It was for $500. After the hurricane, it was $2,000. We're not forgotten, we're ignored. Yeah, that's what people have started saying now. We're not forgotten, we're ignored. They know about Panama City Beach. That's part of Bay County. So they come to Panama City Beach. Oh, it's a beautiful beach. There's nothing wrong, but they haven't come across the bridge. So they haven't forgotten about us. They've ignored this side of the bridge, all the way over to Mexico Beach.
Normally, well, our management contracts were really significant. It took a lot of manpower and a lot of attention, so we programmed a 2,500-seat performing arts theater for the general public and did educational programming for about 7,000 students annually that was free to them. Then in 2015, we assumed management of the Center for the Arts, which is the building we're in now. So we added staff to our organization to manage this facility. We also advocate for the arts funding at a state level and try to facilitate encouragement and partnerships with other artists and arts groups in the community. So we have a vibrant cultural community.
Just ask my wife. I spent most of my time down here at the store. So business was good. And when this hurricane hit us, I really was concerned about when we would recover.
Oh, pure hell. Hell on earth. We thought that my husband and I thought that we had condemned our kids to die.
The morning of the storm, actually it was a little after midnight on Tuesday, but it was Wednesday. I heard the last report coming in saying a Category 4 at landfall, which really caught my attention. At age 14, I was actually in Pascagoula, Mississippi when Camille came in. And I remembered as a young teenager the devastation. And so I, myself and one of our police sergeants, we were up talking. It was close to midnight. Everybody had really gone to bed because we knew Wednesday was going to be a tough day. And I got on social media that night and made an appeal to residents. I said, you know, this is going to be something we haven't seen before. I know that everyone is tired of hearing all the different weather channels, which sometimes dramatize how bad something's going to be, and it's become sort of a cry wolf story. And I was afraid people wouldn't leave. And so I went on social media and I said, if you get in your car now, it's midnight, but if you're up and you can hear me, call your neighbors, call anybody that you know, get in your cars, and if you drive 150 miles northwest of where we are, it'll only take you 2 or 3 hours, and find somewhere to stay until 24 hours from now, and you can be safe. And one of the things that I said that really comes back to haunt me is I'm in a concrete block reinforced building and I'm safe. I have to stay because of first responders, and I want you to be safe too. And of course, we all know what happened to that building. The winds completely destroyed it.
We just called the on-duty police officers in because the wind level was picking up. Me and a couple other guys was sitting out on the back porch, and well, there went a tree in the park. You know, a little bit of wind. You know, no big deal. And then we started seeing the houses start folding across the street. So we got inside the building, and we're holding like idiots. We was always told we had bulletproof glass in City Hall. It wasn't, it was real glass. But it was blowing in and out. But the wind actually didn't break the glass. It blew the whole door out of the frame, door seal and all. And that's when City Hall started coming apart. We tried to get some radio contact out. We didn't know, but the fire department was also being phoned in. The firemen actually had to get in the fire trucks for shelter. So we sort of gradually moved from area to area in City Hall, and the police department was on the west end, and we ended up all down in the hallway down there, 33 of us, and everything just coming around and down around us. So we just prayed, and I always knew the Lord would take me with the angels to heaven, but I didn't know I'd have a police escort.
Well, I was where we were planning for the response and everything, so you know, I basically watched it as it came in, and those kinds of things, and you know, in as long as I've been doing this, that's you know, I've been through about 21 hurricanes, you know, as a responder, so you know, I've seen what they can do. And so we were busy trying to get the state prepared and make sure that we had the resources that we needed to come in, because we were pretty sure it was gonna be pretty bad, pretty devastating. But even with all those years, it doesn't really prepare you for what happened here. You know, it is not an exaggeration to say that it looked like a bomb hit this place. You know, there was just trees down everywhere, roofs off of huge buildings. Just, you know, it's hard to imagine, and really pictures don't do it justice until you stand and see it.
Well, everything, to be honest with you. The calm before the storm was a major thing. The winds, the howling of the winds, the hearing branches and trees just break as if they were like matchsticks, and hearing roof, you know, the roof coming off of the house, and the noises is what I will always remember. I think it sticks in my mind, my children's mind.
Well, being that far north and west of the storm, it wasn't like terrifying. I know a lot of people were in fear for their mortality here, that really was and some people literally did not survive the storm. So I didn't have that, terror feeling where I was. Coming back was what was overwhelming. I got to come back the very next day because everything hadn't mobilized to stop us, from getting in. Yeah. And I didn't recognize the town and thinking there's no, it's like seeing an accident. There's no way some of these people got out of here. It can't be, because how do you survive a building falling down, if you're in it? It was kind of a shock thing. You're kind of numb because you just can't take it all in.
I think the coming out after the storm was over and walking out of the house and seeing the devastation, it was unbelievable. You could hardly get out of your house because of the trees that were down. I lived in the Cove, and we had 50 trees in our yard. We lost about half of them. But it wasn't just our yard. The whole neighborhood was just completely devastated with these trees, and you couldn't walk. My son had to come down here to the store. He was worried so much about the store, and it took him several hours to get down here, and it's only like a 2-mile walk to our store, but it took him several hours just to get over the trees and down here to the store.
I think all of us in some ways feel invincible in our lives. We don't, we hear about other people being in storms or catastrophes, and we pray for them and we send them supplies, and we never picture that being us. I've been in so many hurricanes. I'm a 5th generation Bay Countian, and plus I traveled quite a bit, and I've been in lots of disastrous tornadoes in Kansas, earthquakes in Japan, but this one was different because when the winds really hit at their peak and it lifted an air conditioner off, the 10-ton air conditioner off the roof above our head, and I saw it swirl up, and I kept waiting for it to come back down. I was looking for cover. It never came back down. The strength of the wind took that away.
Something like a Wizard of Oz.
It was an amazing sight. And I showed you some of the photographs earlier, the large oak beams from the ceiling coming through the walls at us. We had a few children in that building with us. Some of the police officers' wives and children had stayed. And my husband is a Vietnam vet. He was with me. And in that hour after we had seen all the trees across the street fall, I'd seen the roof come off our library. The roof came off City Hall. I watched that blow away. I began to think, this building's probably not going to hold up. I could see the other things, crashing, and I do remember that some of the children were crying. We had moved to really the last hallway that was stable, and I went in the little room where the moms and the children were, and there was a dog in there, and I told them, I said, look, it's going to be all right, and I got them to sing a little song. I was a teacher at one point in my career, and I was telling them everything's going to be all right, don't worry. And then when I went back out in the hall, my husband said, you do know that things are probably not going to be all right. That's all he ever really said. And I said, yes, I do.
Early on, it was nutty because we were getting a lot of the traumatic injuries. We were getting folks that are, got hit by this, got impaled by this, and so forth and so on. Not only do I work in my office, but I also work as a hospitalist, which is an in-house doctor, and they had us cover the emergency room. So we saw a lot of that. We also, unfortunately, have had, within a short period of time, we've had some deaths. Folks that couldn't get their oxygen started, folks that couldn't get their heart medicines, folks because of the circumstances and the stress, had heart attacks and so forth and so on. So the first 2 or 3 weeks with those type of injuries, I've had, in my practice personally, had about 5 individuals who passed, direct result of the hurricane itself.
With our school, we emerged with another school because of the damage to Patterson. So we, yeah, we emerged with another school, and very devastating at the beginning, getting used to new teachers and new students. It was a challenge.
And it was district-wide because many schools were damaged, and so a lot of the schools had to merge, and so you have so much movement going on between all, you've got your personal movement at home, then you have movement in the schools, and then you have, you just have so much going on, and then you have the children who have moved, and we lost a lot of children. I mean, we're getting some of them back right now, but we lost 1,000 or more children.
Yes. Well, Panama City is your typical kind of mid-sized town. It's not real big, but the county in itself is big, and of course we have Panama City Beach that's a huge tourist attraction. But Panama City itself was just like any other normal town. We all went about our businesses. We had, you know, concerts at night and things that we could go out and do. We had our clubs that we could go to our meetings, and now a lot of our people have left, so it's hard to even get people together to do anything. So it's really changed in that respect. As people can get their homes fixed, then they're getting ready to do something. But you still have a majority of them in the same organization or whatever that don't have their things fixed. So at what point, you know, you can start getting back together. Our Kaleidoscope Theater was completely destroyed, so we can't go to that. They're going to rebuild, but it'll take several years to rebuild it. Our theater downtown has not reopened. Everything that the students, the plays that the students had at the end of the school year and everything had to be moved to the beach where they were not impacted. So that's how life has changed. It's had a definite impact.
I can't give you an exact numbers, but I can say this. These statistics tell us that in a situation like this, you're looking at about 30%, you lose 30% of your population. And that includes physicians, nurses, techs, and so forth and so on. I can say in my general area, we had, between the Tyndall Bridge and Bay Medical Center, we had about approximately 10 providers. We've lost 7 of those providers. Either they have relocated or they've left the area completely. And from my office to Tyndall Bridge, we had 5 providers. I'm the only one that's still there. So it's been quite devastating. You know, now we've lost a lot of professionals, and the reason being is your professionals, they can get jobs anywhere. And so they can go ahead and pick up and leave. Others, not as fortunate, you know. So, but we've lost Bay Medical Center, the major hospital here, had to lay off hundreds of people because of the damage done to their facility. And Gulf Coast Hospital actually did a little better. You know, they had not as much damage as Bay Medical Center. But for the medical community and the medical support that we're normally used to, it was been pretty much devastating.
Now we're sitting in a situation, people have nowhere to go. I'd estimate 85% of our churches was destroyed and not functional. No water, no electricity, no ice, no food. So the first probably 10 days was very difficult emotionally and physically because everybody was working as hard as they could do.
I want my house back. Our house was 5 weeks old when it happened, and we're still fighting insurance. And I want to be normal. I want my kids to be normal. I don't want the extra water features in their bedroom anymore. I don't want mold growing on my new ceilings. I just want my home back. I want to be normal.
That gives me an opening to talk about our Hurricane Relief Fund. We established that right after the storm because so many people were left with nothing. They were uninsured or they didn't qualify for FEMA, and they were having to leave, nowhere to live. And so the Hurricane Relief Fund, my goal when it was set up, Holland & Knight law firm from Jacksonville did almost $80,000 worth of pro bono work and put that fund into a 501c3 classification very quickly. It's hard to do quickly. And At this point in time, we've given out over $175,000 in $1,000 cash grants to residents to help them with expenses and to rebuild with no questions asked. They just use the money for what they need. I think it's probably one of the most unique disaster charities ever established. It's got a very simple one-page application. Just, were you here during the storm? Did you lose your home? That kind of thing.
A new life. Because it was so different. Then I could go hang out with all my friends and all that.
Early on, I felt that the response just wasn't what it should have been, you know. I've talked to FEMA people who said that, you know, they normally expect this to be done by this length of time, and it hasn't, you know. We still have trash that needs to be picked up and removed. My understanding, we're still waiting for some federal funds. I guess it was just signed or whatever, and it's coming on its way. And I don't know whether or not, because this was a Category 5 and we've had the devastation that we've had, that's the reason why. But my thoughts are this: I mean, the military. I mean, we can move mountains. I mean, you know, it's unbelievable. I mean, I pick up the phone and stuff happens, and I just didn't see that response. You know, the response was just, you know, delayed, and then when it came, it just wasn't, you know, enough.
It's just like someone being in the hospital and you standing on the air tube and ask them how they doing. And you got your foot on the oxygen line, you know.
Red Cross was amazing. They really helped. They really got in and fed people. They were there to hold your hand if you needed someone to hold your hand. So they really stepped up and did a lot for these communities. FEMA not so much.
Instead of having a food bank that's just operational because of the hurricane, Michael, the need here is great and the need is continuing. And realistically speaking, there's probably going to be a need for probably 4 or 5 years after, you know, after today, for example, while people rebuild their homes, find jobs, find places to live if they don't have a home. And so we felt like it might be good if we could help the people here set up a permanent food bank. So when I came and started talking to Tammy about the food bank, because I didn't know anything about this food bank, she told me there are 2 other food banks that operate in Bay County besides the food bank here at the church, but that they only allow people from Bay County to use their services. So essentially there are 10 counties that were hit by Hurricane Michael.
Well, I don't know, we kind of think we're forgotten down here in a lot of ways.
The unforgotten coast?
Yeah.
Because they're going to be reminded. They forgot, and we're going to unforget.
That's an appropriate title.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's funny because I think even my sister, I talked to her on the phone. She lives up in Delaware, and you can talk to people until they're like here. You just don't have an appreciation for what happened.
The unforgotten coast? No, we're the forgotten coast.
Well, I think we have a system in place that works. One of the most difficult things, as we've seen in many storms, is getting people to take it seriously. And part of that is because storms are unpredictable, and many times when we tell people you need to be ready, the storm decides to change course, which is a good thing, and nothing happens. So it lulls people into a sort of a false sense of security. This particular hurricane was the first major hurricane that Florida's had in about 10 years. So it was a decade that we didn't have just a regional or a local issue. And people tend to relax, you know.
Sit on the porch during a Cat 3, you know.
Right. And you know, that's kind of a normal reaction because thank heaven these kinds of things don't happen every day.
Hurricane Michael closing in on the Florida Panhandle. The Category 4 storm is expected to make landfall just hours from now. Jeff?
Have at it.
The kids here, they're so resilient. They've changed completely because they're not worried about playing anymore. They're not worrying about, you know, oh, let's go beat up Tommy or let's go, you know, do this. They're too worried about what are we going to eat tonight for dinner? What, you know, how am I going to get through the day with no roof? How am I going to get to school with no vehicle? What's mommy and daddy, what kind of mood are they going to be in because they're under way too much stress, you know? The kids in these areas, not only have they been affected and changed, but they're different. They'll never be the same again, ever. I mean, they were traumatized, but they all look out for each other now. They all try to take care of each other because it kind of put everybody on the same level playing field, which is